We're going to get tonight's board meeting started. We'll start with the roll call.
Cody Babelski.
Present.
David Schmidt.
Present.
Mark Lochner. Darren Olson.
Here, present.
I am here.
Move the way on that, Mark.
Yeah.
I forgot what to say.
Those that are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pat will read our virtue card reading tonight.
Today's virtue is respect. We show respect by speaking and acting with courtesy. We treat others with dignity and honor. The rules of our family, school, and nation. Respect yourself and others will respect you. You are practicing respect when you speak courteously to everyone. Take special care of the belongings of others. Are receptive to the wisdom of elders. Honor the rules of your family, school, and nation. Expect respect for your body and your rights. Treat others with dignity. Affirmation: I am respectful. I honor the wisdom of elders. I treat others and myself as we deserve to be treated.
Thank you, Pat. Board of Education guidelines: with an open mind, we will establish an atmosphere that allows expression of all views, even when views are not in line with all members, being respectful of time. We will work collaboratively with the district administrator by having open and honest conversations around district priorities. We will work collaboratively with all stakeholders to monitor key indicators so that equitable teaching and learning results in high achievement. We will work toward building a trusting environment where both students and staff can reach their full potential and celebrate success in academics, the arts, and athletics. Public comments. During the public comment period of the agenda, the board welcomes comments from the public on any item not on the agenda. Please know that pursuant to state law, the board cannot engage in conversation with you, but they may ask questions. The board may refer the item to staff, a standing committee, or a future agenda for discussion and action. Each person wishing to speak will have up to 3 minutes to speak. Speakers are asked to provide their name, address, and topic for discussion. So with that, do we have any public comments for tonight? Anybody online? No one's. All right, we'll carry on over. Due to time, tonight we're going to have a Safeway transportation contract approval with Lynn Knight here and Safeway.
Okay, so with me tonight is Tracy and Steph from Safeway. We do this every other year. We have a 6-year rolling contract. But we do come to the board every other year to renew it for another 2 years. And the reason we do that is for financial purposes. Safeway wants to keep their equipment up to date. So in order to satisfy or to require the loan requirements, they have to have incoming revenue. So it's strictly for them to keep up on their equipment. So there are a couple of changes in this for the 22-23 and 23-24 contract. They will increase the rates by 2.5%. The driver's salary will be increased to $15.36 and the aide salary increased to $12.30 for 22-23 and then 23-24 to $15.76 and $12.61 respectively. And I think everybody knows that with the shortage of bus drivers, with aides, of staff all over the place, this was very much expected. We also want to cancel the current contract and issue a new 6-year contract running through June 2028, which is included in your board packet. And now I'm just going to throw it over to Tracy just to have her give you an update on what's been going on at Safeway.
Do you want me to stand or can I sit?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, I'll sit.
Okay.
So I'm not sitting over there. Thank you guys for having us tonight and thank you for reviewing and going over our contract. As Lynn just, said before, our driver retainment is crazy. And that is what we spend probably at least 50% of our time doing. We have safety meetings throughout the year and we try to make them fun. We have pancake breakfast. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt, for coming.
Thank you for
you
putting
guys.
that on. It was
So we try to do things throughout the year, to keep them coming back. We got to separate ourselves from anybody else, and why come work for us? Because we're a great place to work, and it's fun, and you're going to enjoy what you do. So that we spent a great time doing. We also, as a heads up, we did go to a WASBO meeting, convention back in February. I went, my safety director went, and Lynn Knight met us there. And it was on a lot of transportation issues. And I'll tell you what, we sat through some seminars, and it made us feel like we actually know what we're doing. Because they talked about, there's other bus contractors there, there's other school districts there were attorneys for school districts. It was a good eye-opener, and it learned what we were really doing well, and where we also picked up a few things that we didn't know in the past that we thought, oh, that's a good idea. We can maybe we can implement that somehow into what we're doing. So I think if you walk away from one of those things with just learning one new thing for the day, you're doing great. And I think we both walked away with learning quite a few things. So it's nice to see what is out there, and to see, like to see if there's other bus companies out there, which we didn't see a ton of, but with a lot of school districts, which was good. But so overall, we're just going to keep plugging away, keeping our drivers, keeping our equipment up to date. And just working with the Nekoosa district. It's been great, so thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you increasing your skill set going to those trainings and comping your employees. And honestly, I'm not even concerned about the 2.5%. It'll probably just be used for diesel with how things are going anyway. So, do any other questions for the board members for Safeway tonight?
How does the contract handle the big change in the fuel prices like this?
There's an escalator clause in it,
Okay.
which states that we get help when it gets to a certain point. Then everything over that we get help with.
I thought I remembered that from
Yep.
years ago.
Yep, it's still there. Okay. So I just want to make a comment. Tracy talked about a conference that we attended to at WASBO, and we were kind of unique. And I think a lot of the districts were a little jealous of us because we are a partnership. We have a partner in Safeway. Safeway is a partner with us. And a lot of school districts and bus companies do not have that. So it was, I think they were a little surprised that I was working for the school district and she's the owner of Safeway. They didn't, because we were just talking like we worked together all the time. And so it was a very unique relationship, and it made Nekoosa look really good.
All right.
And it's been a long-lasting relationship too. So
Yes.
I don't even know how many years.
It's well before my time. It started back with my grandpa. So,
Yeah.
and I'm going on 27 years, so that's a long
I
time.
never even knew that labors existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The grandpa.
Yeah.
So do we have any other questions by the board members tonight for Safeway, for the contract? Okay. So at this time, I'm going to push for a motion to approve the Safeway transportation contract as presented.
So moved. Second.
First and a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you, and
Thank you very,
Safeway.
very much, and thank you for bumping that up. Have a good night. Stay warm.
All right, so we're going to go back to our normal listing here. CWSA updates. I don't see Anita here tonight.
Did Nathan have anything to share?
Just as a note is that we are going into, one of the things that we're shifting over to is we're doing a whole range of field trips around different, the current project that's going. They're going to be essentially looking at it from a couple different ways, but now that the weather's getting a little bit nicer, I guess we need to go as soon as we can before the prices for the field trips go up with the gas, and hit it while we can. But the idea is that let's try and get the students more interactive and seeing what things look like in the real world. And so we've got one of those coming up this Friday, and then we're going to have a couple hard-on seals all around the same type of theme. So.
Cool.
Nothing wrong with field trips. I never minded those when I was in school. Perfect. Thank you for that update, Mr. Black. Overarching results.
Yeah, so February, March, and April, we're looking at collaborative and responsible citizens. So tonight we're talking about self-directed thinkers, but we also are showcasing collaborative, responsible citizens. So what that policy says is all students are productive and collaborative contributors to the workplace and society. So tonight we're going to highlight some of the work that's happening in the district, related to that, and it ties into some of the conversations the board had a few months ago around the PCL model. So I don't know if Nathan and Keith want to say anything on the front end, but we have Rachel France here, who's one of our high school English teachers and a model classroom teacher, and Beth Kaminsky, who is one of our instructional coaches. So they're going to be sharing with us tonight. But principals, you want to front load with anything?
Well, I think that just to start out by, I mean, Rachel really, took a chance when I went to her this summer and asked her if she would be willing to do this, and kind of explained a little bit about it, but not much. I didn't know much about what it was going to look like, and then it has worked out really fantastic, I think, and I think they'll share, but for both Beth and Rachel, it's really been a great experience. And I know at the middle school, they're working to get a model classroom set up. But yeah, I'll turn it over to them to get started.
Thank you.
So come on down.
Good evening, everybody.
So this is Beth,
I'm Beth.
for those of you that don't know, and Rachel.
I'm Rachel. Hi. So we're here tonight to talk to you about the model classroom and to give you a little background of what that is exactly in terms of our PCL model and how Rachel and I work together and how we take that learning then to the whole staff. So, I'm not sure who's driving. Perfect. So there's 10 features to the PCL model, and this is actually work that our administrative team and our instructional coaching team is actively engaged in right now. What we are working on is identifying within each feature next steps that we want to take, both short-term and long-term, in terms of our work that we're doing here as a district to really streamline and systematize the work that we're doing around literacy. Tonight, though, we're actually going to focus in on feature 3 and feature 10.
So as far as feature 3 goes, it's essentially the establishment of model classrooms, which has been my work. With a model classroom, that's been where I've been able to work really closely with Beth as my mentor and then provide a peer mentorship for the other staff members in both the high school and the middle school. It's a place where teachers can come and observe my lessons in action. We're able to do some debriefing. And then in terms of feature 10, where it's that spotlighting piece, this is where we're able to kind of meet collaboratively, not only as a model classroom partnership, but also as a PCL. So that's our Wednesday work that we've been doing with the GRR program, and also like the one-on-one coaching and book cycles that Beth and I have been doing too.
And it's part of being here tonight to shed some light on the work that we're doing, so as a board you have a better understanding of that. So this really is a process about growing, both in our knowledge and in our understanding. And so what you're going to hear a lot from Rachel and I tonight about is we do a lot of work kind of first in the background so that we can get comfortable with what we're doing, and then that allows us to grow and then take it to the staff. So Rachel's going to talk a little bit more about the actual model classroom.
So as the model classroom, we kind of joke that model has an interesting connotation to it because it gives this idea that this is what we should all strive for. And I am in no way the picture perfect classroom, and that's also what we tell people when we come in and when we debrief. But instead it's more of a laboratory space. So it's where different teachers and coaches too, Stacy and Beth have both been in this place as well, and our administrative team. It's where they're able to come into my room. We do a bit of observing. We do some really purposeful coaching. So it's very skill-based. So when Beth comes into my room, it's driven on what are we hoping that we're going to observe today, what is she going to be paying attention for, and then how can I grow in that particular practice. And then looking directly at instructional strategies that align with the work that we're doing with GRR. So it's been really intentional, which has been really cool. And then the design is based on this idea of cognitive apprenticeship theories. So it's essentially where instead of like the sit and get and we're just kind of lecturing to other people, it's very hands-on and practice-based so that I as a teacher can practice right away the work that we're doing with GRR, and then the other staff that come in and get to observe can see it in action and then take what I'm doing and try it out in their room too. So it's very hands-on, it's kind of moldable, which has been a really interesting part of the process too.
So the expectations then of Rachel, essentially, as a model classroom teacher, is she does commit to 1 year of a coaching partnership with me. Luckily, we hit it off, and it's going really well. But one of the things we've also talked about is her rolling up into a year 2 so that we can have some more intentional work and continue to build that partnership. But it is at minimum a 1-year commitment from teachers, and we are at the high school right now actively advertising to get another model classroom teacher on board so that we can start right off at the beginning of next year, as Rachel's kind of taking that next level, I can bring another teacher on at that first year level. You have to be open to coaching. And so Rachel really does have a mindset of she wants to grow, she wants to learn, she wants to receive feedback. And so we're very specific, as she said, when I go into her classroom about what I'm going to be looking for. This is very different from when maybe an administrator comes in. When maybe Keith comes into her classroom, he's seeing everything that's going on. He's watching students, he's watching her, he's taking note of everything. When I come into her classroom, it's very, very focused. So we talk most times ahead of time what I'm going to be looking for. Right now, it's really centered on focused instruction strategies. So I'm looking at her purpose statements, I'm looking at her modeling that she's doing with her students, and I'm looking at her noticing strategies. But we've also now, second semester, built in collaborative learning strategies. So I'm also looking for those things when I'm in her classroom. And this allows her to understand that I'm not paying attention to necessarily, what might be happening. Maybe there's a behavior going on or something like that. That's not what she's going to get feedback on from me, because this is about her practice and her growth. It's about, you really have to be committed to reading professional text. And so we have 2 books that Rachel and I are currently reading right now, and that really helps to grow both of our knowledge and understanding around coaching, around instructional strategies, so that we can continue to support one another. Actually, it is kind of a partnership that way as well. We meet weekly. So every Tuesday, she and I have a meeting where we are talking about instructional strategies. We're talking about maybe an observation that I just saw from the previous week or the previous day. Tomorrow, we just talked again. I'm coming into her classroom tomorrow, so I'm in her classroom very regularly. We reflect on feedback from our observations. So one of the things, I have this notebook, and I take ferocious notes when I'm in teachers' classrooms, and especially Rachel's. And one of the things that she commented on at the beginning is, I write down almost everything that I hear her saying in the classroom. And so I script everything she says, because that gives her really clear feedback on the types of questions she's asking students, some of those prompts, cues, questions that she's posing to students. And so she and I talk through all of that after an observation, and we talk through what went really well, and we talk through what she wants to change for next time. We do engage in professional growth through video recording. And so Rachel regularly is video recording herself. And this is above and beyond what we're asking of other teachers. Right now, our other teachers in the high school and the middle school are recording themselves once every 3-ish weeks. Rachel's recording herself far more than that. Usually about once a week. I actually said to her before, when I come in tomorrow, I'm gonna record her. And we're doing that to build a library so that we can have videos that are homegrown for professional development, so that we can support all of our teaching staff, K-12. And they're actually gonna come in really handy when we have new teachers. We just had a meeting about new teachers today. So when we onboard new staff, we're gonna be able to use videos of Rachel teaching to bring our new staff on board so they understand the work that we're doing with GRR, PCL, and things like that. The last piece that is, she does serve as a consultant to the other staff. So one of the things she talked about is that we have opened up her classroom where other teachers come in, and it's a guided process. So in November and December, we opened up her classroom, and I took in, I think, 7 teachers, and Stacy from the middle school brought in, I think, another 4 or 5. And so they actually observe Rachel with a coach, and then we do a formal debrief with Rachel, and we talk through what they saw happening in her classroom, the instructional moves that she's making, and things that they could take back to their classroom so that they could actually then implement those moves as well. So again, this is about professional growth, and there's a couple of different areas that we're going to focus on, and the first one is the role of observations.
So like Beth said, we meet a lot, and it's been great. Like she said,
Luckily, we like each other.
We really like each other. Yeah, it's been awesome. But like she said, she's been in my room since January, and we've met a ton in February and all of January as well. So we've done probably 4 full coaching cycles, which is a pre-observation, a coaching cycle, and a post-observation. So 3 different meetings. So that's all listed on the left side, and then on the right side are the different instances where other teachers from AMS and NHS came into the room, where they observed 1 class period, and then we met for about 30 minutes after school, 30 minutes to an hour. It kind of depends on how many questions that they have. These instances have been really great for me as the classroom teacher. After you get over the initial, oh boy, there's a lot of people in the room right now, moment, but it's been really lovely because Beth takes, like she said, these ferocious notes, and she's able to catch things that I don't really remember saying, because a part of teaching is being flexible and being able to have conversations with students on the fly when you're hoping to get them to your end goal. And more often than not, you say things and you're like, well, I hope something happened out of that. But Beth is able to hear them and then jot down the student's reaction as well. So it's a really great place for me to be additionally reflective in the work that we're doing. And then the meetings that we've been having with the additional teachers has been really lovely because they ask questions and they ask how we got to this point. And they ask a lot of process-based things. So like, how did your learning targets come to this spot? How did you feel so comfortable in this strategy? So it's been a lot of development. The first few weeks that we were doing this was a little bit scarier, and now that we're well into semester 2 and already thinking about next year of what my level 2 work kind of looks like, it's kind of old hat. And when Beth comes into the room, it's very natural for me and it's very natural for my students too. So that's become a cool element of the laboratory side of things.
One of the key components of the observation, as I mentioned before, is this really is about Rachel's professional growth. And so it's an opportunity for us to have very candid conversations. She can be very honest, open, take risks, and there's no judgmental. None of the work that I do is evaluative in nature. It is truly to help support her and give her feedback that can help her make moves moving forward. And what's really important about that is John Hattie has done a ton of research on visible learning for teaching, if you've heard of John Hattie. He synthesizes hundreds of thousands of pieces of research about what works really well in classrooms. And what he's determined is anything that has an effect size of 0.4 or higher has a really great impact within the classroom. But what he's also found is that feedback for students, which is I think I'd like to think about a 0.7, is really, really high. So giving students feedback is really, really important. We know that. But one of the things he has found is that the feedback for teachers is actually far more important than the feedback teachers are giving to students. Because if the feedback that a teacher is receiving is creating an impact on through how they're instructing their students, that's where we're going to see that pay off. So the more feedback our teachers are getting, the growth that they're going to make over time, the hope is that it's going to be that impactful. Again, the role then of observations and professional growth, it really isn't a standalone activity. So I don't just pop in and say, oh, and then leave. It is very, it's a cycle that we want to go through. And so it is about objective self-reflection and self-observation, which Rachel does do a lot of. And sometimes I will walk into a room after an observation. We did this last week. She was like, oh, that wasn't so great. And I was like, why wasn't it so great? She's like, well, I didn't have all the things in there today when you were in there. And I was like, but you don't need to have all the things every time. And so, and other times, I went into a room about 2 weeks ago, and at the end I was like, that was amazing. I have to come back and film this. This is just so good. And she's like, really? She's like, yeah, this is just what I had planned for today. And so it's really amazing to see that growth and to see how she has grown since September just with our area of focus, and what the power of having consistent conversations and reflection can do for a teacher who's open to engage in that type of work. It is, I hope, I'm providing high quality feedback.
You are.
And again, it's very targeted feedback. I don't come in and just look at everything, like I said before, and it really is about what she wants to grow in, and that's how I target that feedback. It is a coaching and mentoring experience, and so because I'm not evaluative in nature, it allows us to really kind of let our guards down and just kind of grow together with this work. Peer observation is a big piece of this. As I said before, getting teachers into her classroom is really, really important, and that can be super stressful. This is a very different experience than what most teachers have. When I was in the classroom, 16 years ago, when I was still teaching every day, I didn't have people coming in my classroom like that. I mean, the thought that someone would be in my classroom at least once a week, that was, no way, that would never happen. If I was lucky, I had a principal come in, once a semester and do a quick write-up. This is really a game changer when you can have coaches in all of our buildings who are intentionally focused on teacher growth and teacher reflection and helping to move our district forward in a systematic way. And then it's really about sharing as a community. And so we do our GRR, which is our graduate release of responsibility PLCs. So 6-12, we have those mixed groups. We meet twice a month where we're sharing the practices that are happening. On our PD days, just this past Friday, we did that at the high school. And we do it just consistently as a team. So it's really important to keep that communication loop open.
So the benefits that I see in the observation has definitely been an increased sense of confidence. This is my 3.5 year teaching, so I'm still relatively new to the art, you can pretty much call it. So it's been really great to feel much more established in what I'm doing and how I'm impacting our students as like a sophomore and a junior teacher. So I'm able to see them back-to-back years and see that growth in a really different way, which is super awesome. The feedback that we have has been great, and it's also been a really good way for me to be the captain of the ship, if you will. So when Beth comes into my room, I'm able to say, hey, this is the place that I'm struggling, this is where I need you to watch me, and I need us to work together to come up with some strategies so that I can be better for our kids, because that's what they deserve. So it's been really effective and really impactful in my mind. And as far as the initial work that we've been doing with GRR, this is the first year that we've had this. We started it this year, and I think that our work as model classroom and coaching, a partnership, and then as this laboratory space has also been a really cool place for teachers to come into our room and kind of get used to that idea of the new normal, right? Like we're still within these moments of the pandemic that have impacted education and our students in so many ways, and creating a sense of consistency and community and belonging as a staff and for my children and my classroom has been great. So overall, the observations that you've been able to help me with to refine and to improve have been incredible.
So additional work that kind of has been embedded in our coaching model has been professional goal setting. And so Rachel made some intentional decisions around her SLO and her PPG work this year. So she really wanted to make sure that she was kind of killing multiple birds with one stone. And so she said, hey, can you come and work with me on my SLO and PPG? She's like, I just need some, it was just like
a sounding board.
Yeah, just a sounding board. And it ended up being like an hour later, we were like super excited about this goal that was created.
Through lunch.
Yeah, we did. So really her SLO is focused on elements of GRR, really looking at focused instruction, modeling, demonstrating, so that our students can get stronger with their key ideas and details when they're reading, which is part of our close reading work that we're doing at the high school. And then really connecting that to text-dependent questions and really helping to create an environment where students can engage in collaborative conversations, which again is also an element of close reading. And so we were able to look at data together then, looked at some ACT scores. She was able to set her goal, and then we devised a way to create an in-classroom assessment. We took a practice ACT test, we shortened it up, we picked the questions that were only related to key ideas and details. We created that new assessment, and then she administered it at the beginning of the new semester. And in 2 weeks, actually, it'll be the halfway point. And so we're gonna be talking about what does that next piece look like. And so she was able to administer it. I took the test then, and then I scored them all. And what I'm doing now is I'm analyzing which questions they did well on and which ones they struggle with and why, so that we can have further conversations about that. So again, another partnership with goal setting and really supporting one another with the work that's happening within the classroom setting. So then professional learning. This is something that I think we talked about when Stacy and I were at the board meeting earlier this year, but we are engaged in a 6-12 professional learning community focused on the book, Better Learning. And so all of our 6-12 teachers right now are engaged in learning about focused instruction, which we did all of first semester. So they're now refining the work that they've done around that. And we've started the work back in January, we started the work around collaborative learning. And so our teachers right now are really focused in on looking at basic group work and productive group work. And one of the conversations we've had is that Fisher and Fry break it down that way, basic and productive. And I don't like the word basic. It sounds negative. It carries a negative connotation, like it's not good. But basic has a place in the classroom. We want our students engaging in collaborative conversations every day. They might be short, brief conversations, those would fall under some of our basic productive group work strategies. But then we have productive group work strategies, which we're also working on with our staff. And so that's something now that we've gotten a better hold on focused instruction in Rachel's classroom as a model classroom teacher. So now she's digging in deeper around collaborative learning. We did some professional development around that last week Friday, using her in that area. And that's where we're spending our time now, second semester, 6-12. Then, Rachel and I are also engaging in a text-dependent question book study. And so this aligns as well. Fisher and Fry are doing part of this work. At the high school, we have a focus on close reading. And so Rachel and I are digging in deeper into text-dependent questions so that she can build those into her instruction. And again, we can kind of get more bang for our buck within her model classroom, because not only is she working on her focused instruction and collaborative learning, but she's also working on her close reading strategies aligned to text-dependent questions, key ideas, and details, which is aligned with ACT. It's kind of like a waterfall of, we're hitting all the points.
So intentional.
It really is intentional, it is. So, the impact so far.
As a teacher, one of the things that I get to talk a lot about when people come into my room to have these observations is how much more purposeful things feel. So in all of our classrooms, we have a content, a language, and a social purpose that all align to the work that we're doing that's like very skill-based. And the way that my practice has really changed is really kind of using that language all throughout the lesson, not just like, hey, this is what we're doing today, and then moving forward, but including the students in those conversations, and then referencing them back in almost every conference that I'm able to have with my kids. So it's been really great to help me be intentional to like provide a better and more structured environment for my students. And then it's also allowed me to collaborate with my colleagues in a way that I haven't before. Being at the high school, more often than not, we kind of see that isolation of, well, I teach at the high school and you teach at the middle school, and that is that. But instead, this has really opened a door into, okay, this is what we're doing up here. How can I help you in this way? Let me kind of give you some suggestions, or here's a strategy that worked really well. Here's my lesson plan. What do you want with it? Kind of a thing. So it's been a really cool reciprocal way to kind of move the work that Beth and I are doing forward. And then as far as the students go, what I see in them is a greater engagement. Our lessons are less, we're going to do this thing over 6 weeks, and then when you're done, you're going to have this beautiful final project, but instead are very skill-based of how can we refine this close reading strategy? What are we going to do to improve our writing practices? It's very skill and applicable work, which I think has been a big shift. And especially from last year, where we kind of took these steps back and slowed down to what are these basic skills that our students need. We're now able to take those basic skills that we can guarantee they have and kind of amplify them in a way that's going to serve them better in their coming years. And what's also been really cool is that continuous use of that academic language that's in my purpose statements. When I hear students having those conversations, they're using that language too in a way that I haven't seen them do before. So that's been a really, really interesting development on that side of things.
Then in terms of the coach impact, so this obviously has allowed me to do a lot of relationship building with staff and being new to the building, just getting to know people, really getting a solid footing with Rachel, and then being able to take that into the rest of the building. And I would say that really got stepped up just in this past month in terms of the work that I was able to do with all staff at the high school these past couple of weeks. I have had the ability to grow in feedback, and so my experience of giving feedback that was focused on growth instead of evaluative was definitely something that I had a mind shift for. And it has been really, really helpful to know that it's about what do you as a teacher want and need, and how can I provide that for you to help you grow. It's given me an opportunity to observe and support growth over time. So what's been really nice is because it's been intentional with Rachel and it's been over the course of this year, I have seen her growth week in and week out. Versus my opportunities to work with other teachers, it's not as often, and so I might see their growth many more weeks in between, but I'm able to see hers literally from week to week, and that's because of our intentional work. And it has resulted in deeper discussions around this instructional framework. Teachers coming in, stopping by my office and asking for clarification about like, well, what about this, or why do we do that, or why do we discuss this, or how does Rachel do this, or I've heard about that. And so it really has encouraged conversation, and it's taken our conversations in our PLCs on Wednesdays even deeper. Because all teachers are recording themselves, it has put everyone in that position of being a consultant in a way, because everyone's sharing their craft every couple of weeks. And so it really has allowed us to get to know each other in a deeper way, and to really have deeper conversations about the work that we're doing for students. The building impact then, it really has allowed for those collegial observations, bringing people into Rachel's classroom. That's not really something that's very common in schools. A lot of schools will talk about wanting to get teachers into other teachers' classrooms, but at best, sometimes it's really just, well, I already know Rachel and we're in the same department, so it's easy for me to go in her room because I'm comfortable with that. But this is a whole new ballgame. This is really taking people from all areas, all curricular areas, and giving them the opportunity to observe a teacher, you know, really refining her craft in real time, so that they can see that, oh, okay, what I'm doing is okay. And she's where I am too, and I don't have to feel like I'm behind the 8 ball. That I'm working at my pace and I'm getting there as well. It's a consistent lens for us to have instructional conversations. We're all talking the same language, 612, which is really, really important. And then it really is a shift in professional development culture. This really has taken our work to a whole new level in the sense of, this isn't on PD days or early release days like, oh, well, I just work on what I need to work on. We're working collectively for the benefit of our students and moving our work forward. So as we think about second semester then, as I talked about before, we're going to continue to refine our work around focused instruction. That's a 612 piece. We're going to build that focus on collaborative learning, which is really focusing in on our model classroom and my capacity. And so we've already been off to a really good start. Just already this semester, I've already been in her class 4 times with 2 recordings done. And so just in these first couple of weeks, we kind of just got right in on it, rolled our sleeves up. And we did use one of her videos at our professional development last week, Friday, with the high school staff. So we actually took one of her full videos, and as a staff, I provided a look for document, and we walked through her video and we stopped it along the way to say, okay, what did you just notice about that instructional group that she just made? What can you take back to your classroom in terms of what you just saw? And so we're really embedding it into everything that we do. We are going to be opening up her model classroom for peer learning, probably 4th quarter. We usually give ourselves 1 full quarter, kind of get a good handle on it, and then open it up. So in a couple of weeks, we'll be opening it up. And continue to then support all teachers here at the high school in a coaching cycle. And so last month, as I alluded to before, in February, every single teacher at the high school had a full coaching cycle with me. So that included a pre-observation meeting where they told me what they wanted feedback on, 3 days worth of me being in their classroom, 3 days in a row, and then a full post-conference where we talked about what was observed, give them the feedback, and then talk about next steps. So we'll continue those types of cycles moving into the second semester and giving teachers choice as well in terms of what that looks like. So, questions?
No questions for me. I mean, I appreciate the presentation. It was awesome. I think it's great for personal growth, and then it just kind of spirals down to other areas of the school and teachers and staff, which is nice too. So it's good to see it's hitting on like all areas.
I mean, this is fantastic. What's the ultimate goal? Because as a school district, we're under, our ultimate goal is to, be turning out what's the
results
word?
based. Yeah.
Results based. So, I mean, we could have the greatest teachers in the world, but if the students aren't getting it, it doesn't matter.
Well, and I think if I can jump in on some of that, so the idea in part would be, well, certainly the result policies are the ultimate goal. And, so in time, Rachel, and really already in many ways has, become a mentor teacher, which is phenomenal when you consider it 3.5, she's in her 3.5 year. She then becomes a mentor teacher for other teachers in the building, and then other model classrooms, you grow that more and more and more, and you get that snowball effect of more and more people who are comfortable in that mentoring type role. If you go into Rachel's classroom, and that certainly those students obviously flow throughout the building, it's having an impact. already in that, and I think the gradual release of responsibility, as we look at the language purpose and certainly the social purpose, those elements are really intimately tied to the result policies, and certainly like the self-directed thinkers, a lot of times the social purpose is tied to helping develop those self-directed thinkers, which is a high bar. I mean, that's a heavy lift for humans, period. So I think that's the ultimate goal, is it's really tied into those result policies and getting students to where you as a board have said, this is our expectation. So ultimately, no school is ever going to rise higher than its teachers. You're not going to see the students suddenly be able to exceed the abilities of your students across the board. So developing the teacher skills increases student engagement. I think going into a classroom where there's a very clear purpose and the teacher is talking about that purpose, coming back to that purpose, assessing to those purposes, that helps student engagement, that helps get better results.
I would say too, like as far as the results piece of it all, in having like the collaborative learning and the focused instruction that we do in this model, it forces, I don't want to say forces, it rewires like my brain as a teacher to say, okay, what's the skill that they're going to need to be, like to have results or to be this functional person in society. So instead of it being, can they write an essay, it's more about how can you read this complex text, because whether we like it or not, your taxes can be written complexly. So it becomes much more skill-based and application-based rather than kind of like fluffy and ambiguous.
Okay, so we should see an increase in improvement grades, we should see better testing scores, things like that ultimately. Is there a time frame or a goal for what established when we would like to see the results of this, and how long have we been doing this?
How many months of school are we?
Yeah.
Okay, so
This is the first
yeah.
Yeah.
Humke, I don't think you were there, Mark, but Humke's been using this model for the last 3 years.
Okay.
Right, John? 3 years?
Closer to 5.
We started 5 years ago, but with COVID and all that, it hasn't gotten the traction that we wanted it to get, but it's a model and it goes back to those 10 features.
Yes.
Go ahead, Pat, sorry.
Rachel, how many classes do you have a day?
I have 5. I
5.
teach 3 junior classes, 2 sophomore classes, and then I'm the
All right.
virtual English teacher.
So they're all different, correct?
In student makeup, yes.
In student makeup, and so the strategy for each class then has to be somewhat flexible, correct? Okay, that was one thing, that was one question I had, it's like, okay, so you're not trying to, put a square peg in a round hole, so to say?
No.
Okay,
I'll also
perfect.
say too that as the
Perfect.
sophomore English teacher, I of the English teaching team for sophomores, I'm the teacher that has all of the students with IEPs and accommodations.
Okay.
So it's even more flexible for that
Very
demographic.
good, very good, okay, perfect. The one thing that I think I see out of this, correct me if I'm wrong, is this is taking you from going on your 4th year, you said,
Yeah.
to almost going on your 10th year.
That feels like a compliment.
It is. Well, it's because this is the thing I look at, on your own. I mean, we've got a lot of good teachers in this district, I know a lot of them. And some of them, if you were to talk to them, they would say, well, it took me 5-6 years, to really get into my stride. And it sounds like you're getting into your stride a whole lot quicker.
I will
Is
say
that a proper assessment?
I think so, and I think a lot of that is because we've done such deep dive, and because I've done a lot outside of the school day in order to say like, what do my kids need and what do I need to do to be that for them.
I
So,
would
yeah.
jump in with Rachel.
That's all I got.
You are correct.
Thank you.
And-
You want to say it? Go ahead.
Well, no, just that piece is like, you talk about, just to summarize what Keith was saying earlier, if you want to engage students, you have to have engaged teachers. If you want students who are growing, you have to have teachers that are growing.
That are growing.
And if you want to have teachers who are working to support individual students in ways that understand best how they grow, we have to invest in adult learning. and systems that help them grow in the ways that they're doing and have flexible ways to be able to get just in time. One thing about the teaching profession, you have to make more decisions in the course of your day than almost any other profession outside of surgeon. And that gets exhausting. You come home time, just put it in the microwave. I don't care anymore because you're done making decisions at the end of the day. But by investing people how to make good decisions just in time, that's where a lot of this coaching really goes into. It's not like you were talking about strategies. It's not here's how you do it every single time. How do you make informed decisions along the best ways? And that's really, and that only comes through time, coaching, but this accelerates that process.
How you catch that teachable moment.
Mm-hmm.
When I think too, not only is it great for teachers who are newer to the profession, but teachers who have been teaching for a long time, teaching has changed drastically in the last 10, 15 years. And so to be able to have a fresh set of eyes come into your classroom and help you rethink the instructional strategies that you're using is really helpful for all teachers. I think the big key to that is having an open mind to say, I want to grow and I want to learn. Because if we're not all lifelong learners, that's when we're gonna kind of have that conflict. But it really is beneficial for everyone.
That's all I got.
One thing kind of in closing that I do want to say is, so if anyone, so you can watch teacher videos, like you can go online, you can find videos of classrooms and then you can watch them with the staff and kind of talk it over, and then everybody will say, well, yeah, what do you think those students are like? You know, it looks like she has the perfect class there. It is so much different when you're watching students who are in your building, who you're like, oh, look, you know, that's a whole classroom full of students we know. But if you have ever had the opportunity to watch yourself on video, you know it's uncomfortable. I want to recognize Rachel's courage because she was willing to not only watch herself on video last Friday, but watch herself on video with 30 of her colleagues right there with her. So that was just phenomenal courage to be willing to do that, because there are a lot of us that cringe at watching ourselves on video alone. So that's really to be commended.
It was very nerve-wracking.
The next time it'll be easier.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies. We appreciate you coming and sharing
Thanks. Thanks
your
for having
story.
us.
Let's give them a round of applause. All right, we are going to move into communication with the board. We have Nathan Swenson in tonight, our high school student representative.
All right, it's been a busy February, busy March so far. About 2 weeks from the end of the quarter, our winter sports wrapped up for the most part recently. And with that, we had two boys, Jimmy Schaefbauer and Sawyer Ostrom, wrestle at the state tournament a week ago. And at the end of January, we had Amaya Leverance go to the first WIAA girls state wrestling tournament. So we're excited for those three. FBLA in the beginning of February, I might have went over that. We had eight people will advance to the state competition at the end of this month. Out of 13 total, so over half of our competitors will move on to the state level. Our blood drive that concluded last week, Wednesday, we had our most appointments ever with 50 total, and we ended with our most blood donated ever at 40 total units. And our next drive will be Tuesday, June 28th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Coming up a week from this Saturday, March 19th, Student Council will have our dodgeball tournament here at the high school. That'll start at 10 o'clock, and you can sign up online, and there's more information on Facebook, Instagram, and the office. Musical is this weekend. We've heard them practicing throughout our meetings. It is Little Women. You can still buy tickets, I believe. Some are available. Overall, things are going well. As of Valentine's Day, students were happy with the no mask policy, but overall, it's going well, and we're looking forward to fourth quarter.
Awesome, and congratulations to the wrestling coach and those wrestlers and the team on their season. And I just wanted to ask if, with the record numbers of the blood drive, if it's just kids trying to get out of class. I'm teasing. All right, thank you, Nathan. Now we have our baseball coaches in for our athletic program update.
Yeah, so to get started, I want to read from our vision statement. So Nekoosa Athletics unify those who take part on teams, as well as the entire student body and community. The central goal of our athletic program is to foster characteristics and qualities such as sportsmanship, integrity, commitment, reliability, perseverance, and resilience. By taking part in athletic programs, students are given the opportunity to improve their skills, to compete physically, to build relationships, and to have fun in a safe environment. So the board is asked over the course of the year to have athletic teams showcase their work. So we've asked our baseball coaches to come in and share a few words. And I also asked them to talk a little bit about the feeder programs coming in, so what they know about that. But I do know advertising is in full swing right now for the spring sports. So, come on up. Well, I think the cameras won't see you there. So you're not quite as lucky as Safeway. So you have to come up.
You want
Or not.
We can stay here, that's fine.
Okay.
So just to speak to our feeder program, so we're in the midst of signups right now. In 2019, we had 191 total participants in the summer program. In 2020, we had 14, so it went way down with COVID. Last year at 84, and this year we're at 92 with about a week and a half left. So it's not where it used to be.
And what age group? I missed that.
That is from 4-year-olds to 18-year-olds.
Okay.
So not quite where it used to be, but it is rebounding. I can let Mark speak to the new sign fundraising.
Yeah, we approached Mr. Whitmore as far as now with the new football stadium up there. It is baseball only down at Holland Field. So one of my assistant coaches, one of the JV coaches, came up with the idea to possibly sell sign advertising on the outfield fences as a revenue stream for the baseball program. And I approached Mr. Whitmore about it, and he had discussions with, I don't know who, but he gave me the okay to go ahead and start it. So I've hit up 31 businesses in between yesterday and today, and so far I have 6 firm commitments on signs for the outfield fence down in Holland Field. And probably, just in the vibe I got from the people talking, probably another 10, I would say, that are probably going to do it. They just needed to discuss with their partners or wives or whatever, if it's a co-owned business, what size they wanted and what they exactly wanted on it and everything. And we're having the signs made, Rapid Sign in Rapids. They're giving us the same deal and program that they run with the student program here, and Cwsa and everybody else. They're giving us the same thing, even though we're jumping in, cold turkey, and I'm learning as I go here. Anybody, is there any questions as far as that goes?
No, I think that's a good fundraiser, honestly. I think it'll come along with time. I think you'll get some good support with that, so.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask all the peripherals that you can find. I don't know how many, we did a study one time and what was there, 75 businesses in Nekoosa or some crazy number like that, so keep finding them. Well, you have a good source, just go get the list from Little League, and that's a good start, so.
So as far as some items recently ordered, I'm not exactly sure where we're at on the batting cages, whether that was ordered or not, but we've got tarps for our mound and home plate, some L screens, things like that. So just some stuff that we need to keep everything moving, repair holes in what we got. So it's kind of a big deal. There is going to be, one way or another, there's going to be a double barrel batting cage going in sometime before the end of the school year. So we're also putting a double barrel batting cage in 2 lanes down at the Little League field as well. So hopefully increases and decent infrastructure helps grow the numbers. Any questions on that?
Well, thank you for your work the more young kids we have out, and I'm really feeling that, and I don't know, maybe talk about the strategy behind that, to get those younger numbers up after such a drop off.
We do a lot of praying. So it's, Bailey's been active, Amy McCarthy's been active with Parent Square. As far as marketing, it's Facebook. Tonight, we did our first post for the seniors, so we're doing a senior spotlight on the Nekoosa baseball page, which is kind of sharp. So Braden Richardson was the first one, so it just gets a little bit more face time for those guys, give them a little bit of recognition. Hopefully that feeds into some of the younger people and them wanting to have their pictures or recognition someday. So it's
As far as reaching down with the younger ones too, Kim and I had a discussion early in the year, and when we started open gyms, we made it known with the youth coaches that it was open to anybody that was a male that wanted to play baseball. So on a lot of our open gyms, we've actually had more of the younger kids there out here at the high school than we have had high school players, because they were playing basketball or wrestling or whatever. And some of the dads have come and said to me, thank you very much for allowing the younger kids to come in and participate, because they think it's really cool to, like his son Ethan has helped kids field ground balls, learn how to do it when we're down in the gym. And they get to hit in the cage, and they have the same guy throwing batting practice to them that just threw the high school kids. So they think it's really been kind of neat. They're actually getting mad that I told them they could only come Wednesday and Sunday, and then they were done, so we started regular practice.
They didn't want to add.
Yeah, no, they didn't. Yes.
I just had a thought, something that, like, the youth football always has a night at one of the home football games. Maybe that's something, do like a youth baseball, recognize like the youth baseball players and stuff at a home game, or something along that line. That was just a thought that I had.
definitely.
That I don't think we've ever done before.
Usually, really, the more engagement you see from the older kids down to the younger kids, the more little kids you see at the varsity field. So I think that's something that our school districts should really exploit, especially if there's older kids that love working with the youth, the 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. I think that's something that the school should really dig in on and exploit, make that relationship a lot more known.
And when's let's plug the sign up one more time. When does that end?
For the advertising?
No. When's the cutoff date to sign up?
For the youth?
For youth.
We say it's the 15th, but we don't usually cut it off.
Okay,
Because we
but
get people signing up.
but doesn't there come go ahead.
We get people signing up a week after the game start and everything else, so we're not gonna say no to anybody, but we'd like to have our numbers in place by the 15th so we can get everything ordered.
Right, so you get your team set.
Yeah, definitely.
Get your number of teams set. Okay, so guys, gals, this is softball too. Sign up. You got until the 15th.
March or
Of March.
Okay.
Of March. We got a week left, right? So yeah, make sure you get signed up. We need players. We want players. Everybody plays. And don't think you're not good enough. You're good enough.
And your first game is April 11th?
April 4th, I thought.
April 4th, I think, right after
Monday
spring break. We have a week of practice, spring break week, and then we start games the next week.
All right.
So there isn't really any messing around.
No.
And as far as what Andy said, what we have ordered for this year, it wasn't, other than this double 2-lane batting cage, the other stuff we ordered was not, I tried to explain to Mr. Hano when we ordered it and stuff, it wasn't extravagant. It was stuff we needed to actually be able to practice and do stuff down there this year. Like, one of the things he didn't mention is we ordered a new net for the turtle cage, which is our portable batting cage. That thing is so old, I think it's the turtle cage that I used when I played here. And when I sent the model number into the company to try and find a cage, that company no longer exists. But they were able to find, by the specifications of the measurements, they were able to find a company that could make a cage for it, or a netting for it. So it was doable, but just, if anybody, I just wanted to lay it out there, if anybody's questioning that we're going above and beyond extravagant, we're not. It's stuff we absolutely needed to be able to play this year.
Well, thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, okay, thank you guys and good luck on your season this year. Any other questions for coaches? All right, thank you again. Brian Grill, Director of Student Services.
Hi, you guys. I have 3 quick updates for you. So our special education department did move to DocuSign to help getting consent for evaluations in special education paperwork. And it has been working beautifully. We have had families really respond well, say, wow, this is so easy. I get email, I can sign, get it back to you. Literally the first afternoon, we sent 3 documents out, got them all back the same afternoon. So usually some of our families that just mailing back and forth isn't the most effective way to communicate. This electronic signature has been approved through DPI for special ed to use. It is HIPAA and FERPA compliant, so we are good in all those areas, but it's just been a way to really work with our families to get documentation back and forth and help evaluation process, consent, all those things move at a more efficient pace, which has been great. The other thing that I've been working on lately, I think Terry and Lynn are tired of hearing about it from me. Every 4 year we have to do a civil rights data report to the federal government about discipline academics, and a lot of it comes from what we report to the state, but I have to fill in some of the gaps that are in there. It's a 400-page report, and that is due this week. So it's almost done, but we're there. And then on, I guess, lucky, we could say, we were chosen as one of 8 districts in the state as part of civil rights self-assessment. We were chosen for on-site visits for that as part of the assessment process. So my next project is we have DPI coming for their initial first visit next week. It's similar to what we do once every 5 years. There isn't much change. It's just DPI comes here for that meeting. So, but we are one of the chosen ones. Instead of doing our paper report every 5 years, we get an on-site visit. So that will be my next project that I will be working on. So,
Well, thank you and good luck on that report.
great times.
Have fun.
Oh yeah.
And then lastly here for communication with the board, we have Lynn Knight, our business manager.
So 'tis the season of audits. On Monday, we have our school nutrition review. Because of COVID, they are not coming out to visit anymore. They are doing a phone interview, so that'll be probably a 3-hour phone call with the school nutrition folks and making sure that we're compliant with all of the requirements that they require. Our membership audit will be starting soon. We were selected this year. Typically, districts are selected at least once every 4 years. I think we're selected, we got a membership audit 2 years ago, so we were selected again this year. So membership audit is just making sure that we counted our kids correctly for the 3rd Friday count and the 2nd Friday count, because that's where we receive the aid from the state. So they want to make sure that we're getting our fair share, I guess. Annual audit will begin shortly. It's due every single year. We're required to do that. We do have new auditors, so it will probably be more intensive this year with all the internal control procedures and making sure that they know our systems and processes. It's always nice to get a fresh pair of eyes on our procedures and making sure that we're, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So, Brian and I just got back from a federal funding conference last week, where we both came back with a pit in our stomach with all the federal funding that we received. There is a ton of red tape and compliance issues that we have to meet, or we will get written up and we will return the money. So Brian and I are the gatekeepers to all that money. So we're gonna make sure that every single process and compliance issue is checked, making sure that we never return one single dollar to the federal government. So it's a big job because we care about the details. So it's difficult. So that's what we're working on.
Well, we appreciate both of your guys' work on that, from the phone calls to the reports to the audits. So thank you for what you do. Any comments for them?
Did we get any special COVID money this year or last year to use because of COVID?
We got a lot of federal money because of COVID. We got ESSERS 1, we got gear money, we got ESSERS 2, and we got ESSERS 3 money. So it probably equates to a little over $2 million.
So what was that used for?
Well, we're still in the process of using it. Remember when I came to the board and asked for one-to-one initiative for computers? So we actually used some of that money to purchase one-to-one, all of the devices. We did a lot of the PPE. We replaced all the water fillers in the water fountains in the school. So right now, Brian and I are in the process of creating a document to put on our website, which is required, that basically indicates how we spent the money. ESSERS 1 gear and most of ESSERS 2 is spent. ESSERS 2 was to pay for our social workers and our coaches.
And our additional school nurse.
So we're using ESSERS money to pay for those salaries and benefits, and kind of replacing what the district is paying for. So it's very delicate because right now a lot of districts are worried about the fiscal cliff because this is one-time money. I mean, once it's gone, it's gone. So if you go out and you hire a bunch of people, well, when that money's gone, how are you going to sustain that? So they're talking about a fiscal cliff. You are only going to get a fiscal cliff if you create a fiscal cliff. And Brian and I are trying very, very hard not to create a fiscal cliff to put our school or our district in that unknown. We want to make sure that whatever we implement, we can sustain after this federal money is gone. So it's really difficult because a lot of school districts have gone out and hired all this staff, and now they're worried about the fiscal cliff. Well, come on, what are you thinking? So it's a dance, is what it is. So I call the cup game, borrow from Peter to pay Paul. That's kind of what we're doing. So
I know they put deadlines on some of those, but we still have time.
yes, we have until 2024.
Okey dokes.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right. Is that okay, Dave? Is that an answer? Okay. And you can call me too. I can. Sure. Okay.
All right, we're gonna dive into the meat and potatoes here of our policy governance. R3 self-directed thinkers. Terry, do you want to read the paragraph for us?
Absolutely. So all students are creative, self-directed thinkers, prepared for and able to adapt to a changing world. And breaking that down further, principals at respective buildings talk about in the policy the use of information from a variety of sources to solve problems and make independent decisions, set priorities and goals, assess personal progress and make appropriate adjustments. We heard some of that tonight. Plan and prepare for challenging careers based on personal interests and strengths, and demonstrate resilience and patience with the ability to cope with diversity.
So I know I talked to most of you guys. Some pros that I had was the collaborative learning and focused instruction. That was something that I thought was great in this policy, and I didn't know. I know there were a few weaknesses or cons. Did any of you guys want to mention any of those with this policy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm a sub at the academy, so I get to use a lot of the curriculum, especially the online stuff. And this past year, I've noticed with our Apex program, well, that's the only online program we have, that there are several classes that I think people would find objectionable if they knew what was being taught. I've addressed it, and I didn't know when to bring it up in an actual board meeting until I got to this thinking part of it here, this critical thinking. Because from what I can tell, just with working with students, it seems like it's not telling them how to think, but what to think. And I have a problem with that. I always wanted to, give kids both sides of the stories. Now, I cannot say, how this works in a classroom that all they're teaching is that one topic. I have a little bit different perspective on it in that in the academy we teach all kinds of classes and topics. And we can't just focus on, okay, this is it. And so we don't have that discussion time as a class to say, well, this is the other side of the coin. This is the other side of this issue. So I cannot direct that. But the content is still there, I believe, within that curriculum. And the thing that really scares me about it, about having an online like that, and a provider, and I don't know, here again, is can they change this in the middle of the year and teach something that we really don't want them to be taught to our kids? I don't know. I would assume that they can. I mean, it's just reprogramming something. But I'm not sure on that either. Now, in my complaint, and I don't know if I conveyed this to you, Cody, when we talked on the phone or not, I am not blaming anybody in this school district. No, nobody. I'm not blaming the teachers, I'm not blaming the administration, I'm not blaming any of it. Because I believe we have fantastic people at every level. All right? I'm just throwing this out there. Now, how can we monitor this? It'd be tough. It would be very tough. This would be nice where you could get a committee of parents involved to look at it. And it would have to be a sizable committee, because you can't go through a whole class and say, okay, this is it. This is. I understand that, as far as the working with Apex, it's very user-friendly as far as the teacher goes. I can imagine the teachers in the schools really like it. It's way better than Odyssey wherever it was. Acellus, which was our other provider from last year, I know some of our students actually wanted the Acellus. It's a little bit different setup.
But that same thing can happen with Acellus too.
Right, it can. It can happen with anything. I'm just saying, I'm just commenting on how a teacher would feel about Apex, and I think they would like it. I like it. I like working with it. I just don't like some of the content within it.
Now, are we able to pick and choose modules in Apex?
Oh,
Or do you
yes.
have to buy a whole packet?
Right.
Okay, so if there is topics or modules that are not what we want, are we able to switch those out?
I don't know about switch them out, but I think we would not we're not gonna use them.
Right, yeah,
We're not
okay.
gonna use them.
Yeah. And by the changing of that, by the way, I think that would be, believe it or not, garnered by contract. Can they do it? Maybe, but I think that would be a breach.
I don't know, Darren. I'm not saying that they can't.
No, I think that would be a breach of
It's just-
contract, but you still have to prove it and all that garbage.
It's just something that in my mind that I would want to be watchful of.
And we can look into that and have this.
Right.
have a
Well, and I
discussion.
just want to add, there is a group of teachers right now at the high school that are looking at not necessarily this part of Apex, but how do they take their courses and put them into Schoology, which is our online tool, putting their courses into Schoology and then using those courses to deliver instruction. So we're a ways down the road on that, but it's something that
I want to be perfectly clear. I'm fully intending and voting for this policy, that we're compliant. But
I think it's legitimate.
But I want this noted.
Okay,
That's all I'm asking.
got that down for you here. Yep.
So who picks the content? How's that content picked?
By Apex, I would imagine.
So we don't have any,
must have-
we don't have any
must
say
have
in how.
Well, we buy the course from APEC, so when we,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, we must have chose that course.
Right,
right.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, okay.
right.
But what you're saying, there's maybe stuff in that, inside that
Right.
course that we chose,
Right.
that may not be what we
I've,
want.
I've had one kid refuse to take one course because he did not, he agreed, he thought it was the same way I did. And this is not good.
So like you said, maybe what we would have to do is revisit what our choices were and
Right.
re-choose.
Well, you get the whole package, you just don't have to assign a certain thing. And
Yeah.
you just don't use it.
That's an elective, the course that Pat and I have talked about is an elective.
Right.
I'm assuming it's the course you and I have talked about.
Right, well, there's another one, well, that's an elective too, I guess.
So, yeah,
But
it's an
still,
elective.
it's out there that we would have to choose if we want to use that.
Right.
Yeah. And it's one that, I mean, I looked it up as we were talking about it. I mean, so 17 students at the academy have been enrolled in that course.
Yeah.
4 high school, Nekoosa high school students and 2 students at Wise. So, yeah, so Pat has certainly seen the most of the academy.
Yes.
No doubt about that.
Right.
Well, good conversations on that. Any other comments for R3?
I guess I have one, I don't know if this fits, earlier in the year, there was some discussion around I think it was 56 students weren't on target for graduation at the high school. Does anybody know where that number is at and what?
I'm not sure where 56.
So I think Susan might have been talking about it in the context of doing high
912 you're
school.
talking about. You're talking
912.
Not just
okay,
seniors.
yeah.
Yeah, 56, you get a whole
Yeah.
class.
No, you lost half the senior class.
Yeah,
Full
so,
graduation
well, we
block.
continue to monitor it, because of course, for graduation purposes, it's only semester grades that accumulate credits. And so, night school has been helpful. We were able to get, some students were able to catch credits up that way, certainly through credit recovery. Some students have been able to recover credits. And so and then summer school coming up, or, well, hopefully soon coming up in a relative sense. Students will be able to take credit recovery classes and keep chipping away at it. It's what I would call a slow, arduous process, because it's recovering credits that students have missed, and then of course monitoring grades, as we go along. And continuing to try and make sure that students don't make the hole any deeper, and we try to help them get out of it.
Well, and that's why when you say self-directed thinkers, I would think if we're having to drag students along, we aren't creating self-directed thinkers. We're holding their hands. So I guess I'm thinking that is something that somehow or another we have to, and like I say, they were talking about it here with the model classrooms, and we're trying those programs and things like that, but.
And it's a community, it's not, just a school thing, it's a whole community effort that is really needed, and really maybe a whole society effort. The impact we're seeing, certainly from the experience of the pandemic is very real. We have seen just an explosion in terms of anxiety and apathy, and that's not just, in fact, in some ways, Nekoosa is doing better than other places in some sense. We're in a real struggle. Students are really, really, really in a bad spot. This pandemic has had an impact on students that is different than adults. And, my wife works as a counselor, as a community counselor, and boy, she spends a significant amount of her time meeting with teens. And it's not Nekoosa teens, but yeah, we're gonna be dealing with this for years to come.
It's affecting businesses too.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a lot of businesses that people have been working out of the office for 2 years, and they're starting to incorporate that back in. So they're seeing it, and everybody's having to deal with it. So it could be mom and dad are dealing with it at home, and that's affecting the student. The student might be okay, but all of a sudden mom and dad are having some struggles. So, and that's hard to control, so.
And so the board knows, I've been telling the board about the graduation specialist, so that is an addition we're adding to our arsenal here to support
She
kids.
is hired and started yesterday.
Good. Another good thing to kind of help guide those students through the hard times that are going on right now.
So is that's targeted towards
Those kids
targeted
here.
towards the graduation of the kids that
Yeah, so she
graduate
has a-
this year.
she has a
and maybe
caseload.
Juniors.
Well,
that
freshman,
might be-
freshman and sophomore. Freshman is where her caseload is.
Okay.
So she's working specifically with a caseload of freshmen that we identified through looking at grades, taking us teachers and advisors' recommendations. So that's the group that she is working with. And then
So that's where the biggest group of that, the people that aren't on
that's a
target.
significant, yeah, freshmen and sophomores are really, I would, not that there aren't others in the junior senior, freshmen and sophomore students are significant.
All right, if there's no other,
Derek's got it.
oh, you got a question? Yep.
Yeah, I have a question for Keith. I'm looking at 3.3 here, that's plan and prepare for challenging careers based on personal strengths and interests and strengths. And I guess for the planning, you reported just academic and career planning. Could you expand on that a little bit? I think,
Sure.
especially now that years ago when I went, the career planning is which college you're gonna go to.
Yeah.
Now that's not such a thing. It's really changed around. So what are we doing at the high school level to find where people belong? And I kind of bring this up with the tech ed department because I think our tech ed department is going to be coming along here. It's going to be a great resource for us.
Yeah.
So where are we at, or how are we working with that stuff to find
Sure.
people in the right areas?
Well, the starting point really is in advisory, and so every student is assigned to an advisory at the beginning of their freshman year, and then they stay with that same advisor throughout their high school career. And so within advisory, then they do a academic and career plan portfolio. They work on identifying strengths. They work on career interests, and that's actually an area we're going to be continuing to revamp and continuing to work to improve. Sophomore year is now going to be a big year for career exploration. Freshman year, they've been taking strengths in a class called Freshman Seminar. We're going to incorporate that into advisory in freshman year, which will open up another elective opportunity for our freshman students. Sophomore year in advisory, they'll do strengths, continue with strengths, and then also career development, and the LEO program that I talked about in here. Junior year is about the ACT and about prepping for the ACT and identifying colleges and post-secondary plans and kind of refining. And then in senior year, we'll be looking at if a student is planning to go the university route or technical college route, then you're looking at FAFSA and scholarship applications and college applications. In the junior year, students take the ASVAB, which is the military aptitude test, but it gives a ton of information for career exploration as well. And so those pieces, and then those advisors also, when we actually next week will be starting course registration, the advisors work with the students, and this is an area that we continue to refine as well. In fact, today we met with all the advisors to go through, okay, here are things to be looking for when you meet with students. Here are the courses that you want to be looking at. Here's available options in tech ed, available options in family consumer science, and across the board. But trying to be more targeted to help a student identify career routes and then what are courses that make sense based on your career interests. Understanding that adolescents are not, nor should they have their entire life course planned out and figured out. But, just yesterday I met with a student who is interested in the Start College Now program, which is through the technical college. She's looking at going into a health career, healthcare, nursing assistant, medical assistant type role. And so we talked about, here are courses you want to look at for next year. Here are possible courses of the technical college that would really make sense for your career interests. A lot of it with the idea as well of, hey, let's try to get you as many college credits at no cost to you, well, no cost to you, as a taxpayer,
Right.
your parents as taxpayers, but let's try to get you some college credits, and at the academy, I've had some conversations with students as well about, hey, let's try to get you college credits rather than, for instance, graduating early. Let's look at the options for getting you college credits that you don't pay for. But being deliberate, I think I would call it just, a lot of it is being more deliberate about what are the plans that somebody is looking at. And a lot of that is just, sometimes it's one-on-one, just personal relationships, just pulling students in. They're conversations that I love to have. And so, I'll engage any student anytime in conversations about their future. But that's kind of the gist of it.
I really feel that whole part of the education process is really changing quite quickly, and that the old way may not be what we need anymore. So I'm happy to hear that we're looking at the more directed kind of, we don't want to specialize because the world is huge, but on the other hand, if you want to be a welder, you don't have to take childcare, whatever it is, or whatever class.
Years ago, I had a heartbreaking conversation with someone, or at least I found it heartbreaking, in that this person went into accounting. They didn't go into accounting, they went into an entirely different career field. But then later in life, they found accounting. And I had a conversation with the person who was in their late 40s at this point and said, geez, why didn't you go into accounting right away after high school? The way, you clearly have a passion for it. And his response to me was, I didn't know it existed. And so to try and avoid that, try and help students at least identify the options that are there. So.
And that helps out in STEM that Nathan was talking about too, where you guys are taking these field trips and seeing the real world and seeing options.
All right, great conversations. Any other questions for R3? Got some good notes here. Thank you.
Did everybody do their homework?
For their comments? I
Good.
think so. Yes, I do. All right, so I'm gonna look for a motion to approve R3 self-directed thinkers.
Also move.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you. GP11, board member violations. Terry, just a quick read on that.
Sure, the board member and its members are committed to faithful compliance with the provisions of the board's policy. In the event of a member's willful and/or continuing violation of policy, any board member may seek remedy by notifying the board president of the violations.
I think we all serve the district well and try to be good role models and follow things to a T as much as we can. So if there's no comments for GP11, I'm just gonna look for a motion on that.
So moved.
First, second, there's a second by Mark. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, we went through Safeway. And I know, Keith, last month we went over one of these scholarships, right? For
The technical excellence. I do not have, we're still sorting through with the academic excellence. You have to figure out one.
Okay.
Figure out your list, and then you have to figure out because it's who's going to a UW
Okay.
school.
Perfect.
So we're still sorting that out. So I do not have that one for your approval this month.
So we'll skip over academic excellence tonight. What do you have, start college now?
I do have some Start College Now applications. I'm asking for your approval on good faith because we will still be working on these to try and sort out what courses are available, and then also it's a continual process of note we offer a comparable, because this is where for early college credit and Start College Now it always comes down to, do you have a comparable course at your high school? And so sometimes what I need to do is talk with Morgan, who is our person that we work with at Mid-State, to say, okay, well, developmental psychology, we have AP psychology, which students can get college credit for. How much does developmental psychology differ? And then it becomes a bit of a judgment call. Some classes like Intro to Ethics we have, and so I do have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 Nekoosa High School and 1 Y student application here. So I would ask for approval on these Start College Now applications. Like I said, with the understanding that there will be continual revision happening all the way up until August. So.
I think we got good faith in you on that, so unless you guys have any questions, we'll push the motion to approve the Start College Now applications.
Also move.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried, thank you. Information only, 22-23 NHS course description book.
And that is on the web, on the agenda. So if you click on that, you can go in and review it. So please do that, because every year somebody's got some questions, one of the board members, so I know they're just putting the finishing touches on it, so we just attached it.
Rolling that out Monday.
Monday, okay. Employment, Corey Gersmal, JV boys basketball coach, and Andy Hugesteger, who we saw tonight, varsity assistant baseball coach. So congratulations on those positions. Darren, could you read the donations?
Corey's for next year already?
I believe it was previous.
Or previous.
It was missed,
Okay.
yep.
It was just
Okay,
catching up.
okay, that was my question. Okay, alright.
And then Darren, backpacks.
Yeah, backpack for kids, the donations, we received $80 from Bethlehem Women in Missions, $525 from Sacred Heart Collections, that's a lot. $500 from Julie Zarowski, and $14.50 from the Rome Makers HCE. And again, thank you for everybody with the donations. Every one of these dollars goes so far. Yes.
Thank you, Darren, and thank you again to our donors. Minutes 2/8/22 was a regular board meeting, treasurer's report, and check register. And right now, I'm just going to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, the motion carried, thank you. Future agenda items, our board meeting will now be held at the district office moving forward, so that's nice. April 7th will be our board workshop, 6 p.m. April 8th and 9th, our spring board advance. I know we have all that on our calendars. And then April 12th will be the regular board meeting. At this time, I am looking for a motion to move into closed session.
And we're gonna go into the library.
I'll make a motion.
First, second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
You gotta do roll call.
Oh, roll call? Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah. Cody Brubelski,
Yes.
David Schmidt,
Yes.
Mark Lochner,
Yes.
Darren Olson.
Yes.
I vote yes.
All right, we are moving into closed session. And thank you, everyone,